Chapter 13. Mark of the Ancient. Enoch peered out the folds of his tent into the night. All was quiet now. He could still smell the scent of the fatty meat and oil lingering in the air. Enoch sighed. He really wanted to be alone. To think, to be alone. To think, to understand what happened. He knew Adna was watching him carefully, though she pretended to be sleeping. He could feel her hesitance. Is she afraid of me now? After the fire had come and the display of the ancient's favor, things were somehow different. Things were somehow different. There were no more questioning looks from Great Mother Eve, nor had he heard any more grumbling from his tribesmen after he stepped out of those roaring flames. Even Father Seth spoke to him with reverence. Enoch remembered the honor Soka's words when he had given instructions to begin the distribution as you say, bearer. He had no fatherly advice to offer as usual. Instead, Father Seth immediately assembled the elders and Medici to make sure the most ailing members of the clans would receive a portion first, according to Enoch's wishes. Be at ease, bearer, even though the tribe of Cain has betrayed us, we are not without means. Ease, bearer, even though the tribe of Cain has betrayed us, we are not without means. I will assemble the scouts and the leading men. We will learn how to cultivate the Auru. I will send out a party immediately to discover their methods. With the favor of the ancient, we shall prevail. Enoch was glad Father Seth had taken over the task without being asked, for Enoch knew he looked strong and vibrant. He even had the telltale glow of the Ancient One upon him earlier, but inside he felt very weak. From the way Adna keeps looking at me, it must still be there. Enoch held out his arms and stared. His bronzed arm was soft and almost imperceptible, but still present. Enoch grabbed a robe and put it on, effectively covering his limbs. He looked over at Adna resting on the soft blankets. She lay still, her breathing regular. Adna, said Enoch. Oh, yes, she sat up quickly. Yes, Enoch, I mean bearer. Oh, yes, she sat up quickly. Yes, Enoch, I mean bearer. Adna, he said, walking over and kneeling beside her. You may still call me Enoch. We are husband and wife after all. Enoch peered into her dark brown eyes for a moment, searching. Adna returned his gaze for a moment, then quickly looked down. Again, stood up and turned away from her. I was wondering if you would make me a drink of the Auru. I am feeling... Oh, yes, certainly, bearer. I mean, Enoch. Before he could finish, Adna had already rushed to her feet, donned a cloak, and was halfway out the door of their tent. Her relief was apparent. Enoch threw off their tent. Her relief was apparent. Enoch threw off his robe and tossed it to the floor. The night was too warm for it anyway. He plopped down on the cushions where Adna had lain and sat down, hugging his knees into his chest. The euphoria he experienced earlier while the power of the one mind had surged through him was gone. Tired and very alone. He nodded his head, closed his eyes, and sat there for a while, listening to the sounds of the night. Enoch. Enoch, called a voice. Huh? Oh, Adna, said Enoch. She stood before him carrying a wooden tray. It was filled with an assortment of fruit, some Aladi cakes, and a large mug of steaming liquid. The aroma of the Auru filled the room. Enoch rubbed his eyes and tried to focus. I must have fallen asleep. He took the mug of Auru from the tray and held it under his nose. Enoch inhaled deeply. Adna, who still stood looking at him expectantly. Oh, Adna, he said, thank you. You have done my heart well this eve. Adna beamed as she backed away slowly. Adna, there's no need to leave. Well, she said, hesitating as she edged closer to the door. It's just that Great Mother Eve and the others, just as you requested, they really need my help. That is, if you don't mind. Oh, no, of course not. Please join the others, said Enoch. He hid his disappointment with a quick smile. I will see you at son's birth. Enoch watched her rush from the tent door, almost tripping over her cloak as she did so. Enoch frowned at the clumsy movement of his normally graceful wife. Why was she in such a hurry? Then he noticed it. The Auru had already replenished him. The room was filled with a gentle, pale, golden light. It was coming from him. He watched the woman set the tray down beside Enoch. He too felt better. The scent of the Aru reminded him of home. He needed all the reminders he could get, since it looked like he would not be returning any time soon. The general's orders were very clear: observe and record until further notice. Onami stepped aside to avoid the woman's haste. Though he knew she couldn't see him, he didn't like the sensation of humans rushing through him. He paced back and forth, studying the human bent over the cup of Aru. Enoch. I do not understand these sons of Adam. He should be elated that the Ancient of Days to summon the forces, a privilege indeed, but there he was, bent over as if he had been reprimanded. Onami stopped pacing and stood over Enoch. What was that? He heard a mumbling sound coming from the man. Oh, great. Now he is talking to himself. His mind is twisted. This has bent his mind. Wait, maybe. Onami rushed back to the door and looked around. His hand automatically went to his bow as he watched. Maybe this is some new trick of the fallen. He looked over his shoulder at Enoch, still muttering, but louder now, then peered again into the darkness. Nothing. Onami poised himself for attack. They must be around somewhere. Enoch is going mad. Just then Onami stiffened as a sharp sensation prickled his spine and sent flecks of awareness through his body. Pinpricks of light surged from his being, making him even more brilliant than usual. He knew these. My lord, said Onami, bowing low. Magnificent light stood in front of Enoch. The beloved nodded his head towards Onami and raised a finger to his lips. Son of Adam, your petition has been granted. Return to the forest of Avanland, where I will meet you. Onami watched the beloved talk with the man for a while. He could no longer understand what they were saying. They were speaking some language unknown to him. Then the beloved turned to him and smiled before leaving. As he did, he heard the words, Onami, protect him. Yes, my Onami's usual pearly appearance surfaced briefly, a visible reminder of his trip through the gate at the Tree of Life. An intense spectrum of every hue imaginable whirled through him, then softened with the beloved's departure. Onami looked over at Enoch, now sleeping soundly on the rumpled blankets. The faint golden glow emanating from the human's figure remained. Onami held out his own arms and studied them. Pale pinks, purples, and blues colored his figure in swirls, so subtle he could not tell where one shade ended and the other began. As he moved his limbs about in the moonlight, the colors changed again, then about his figure. Why am I changed? What does it mean? Onami stood up slowly and studied his torso and legs this time. They too were affected. It is beautiful, I think, but what does it mean? Will it last? Onami plopped down on a cushion lying near the man and leaned against the wall. He stared at Enoch, who now looked a little more like the Elohim than a son of Adam. Onami hugged his knees in toward his chest and sighed as he remembered how the man's wife had literally run away from him. I wonder what Azam and Delmar will think. They will ask me what happened and why am I. The man's wife had literally run away from him. I wonder what Azam and Delmar will think. They will ask me what happened and why am I this way. What should I tell them? No, Tafara, wait. Adna called out as she ran to catch up. Adna, if you won't, DC Tafara, please. I am sure he doesn't want to be disturbed. How do you know? Have you asked him? Well, no, but I am. Listen, bearer or no bearer, he is still Enoch. Tafara pushed back the folds to Enoch's tent. Soft rays of first light streamed through the room. Stunned, Tafara took a step back. She shielded her eyes with her hand as she approached her nephew. Adna peeked in through the doorway, ignoring Tafara's other hand, beckoning her to follow. There was Enoch. He sat with his back to the door, hunched over a large tray. Empty melon rinds, a smattering of seeds and crumbs littered the floor around him. It's not affected your appetite. Enoch jumped in his seat and swirled around. Tafara squinted her eyes tightly. Tafara, oh, sorry. Enoch threw on a hooded robe covering his exposed arms and legs. That's better, said Tafara, smiling brightly as she lowered her hand. I believe this is yours. Tafara held out Enoch. What? Enoch stood up quickly and looked down at the empty loop on his waistpack. How did you? You may be the leader of all Adam's realm, and you might have the glow of the Ancient One about you, but you still do not know how to hold on to your weapon, nephew. Enoch smiled. At least Tafara is not afraid of me. I might be inclined to teach you if you tell me your secret. Tafara reached out and took Enoch's hand into hers and examined it. Where is the light coming from? Do you feel different? Can you call the fire down now? No, Tafara, Enoch laughed. I don't know where the light comes from. It's just there. And no, I don't feel any different. Well, at least not now. But last eve, I did feel. Adna, since you are closest to the door, Tafara called out sweetly, would you please have a Sabasi bring us some ketu? I am sure your husband would love a cup. Oh, of course, Tafara, said Adna, stepping into the doorway so she could be seen. I'll have them prepare a tray. The tent folds fluttered as Adna rushed away. Tafara, said Enoch as he grinned, you shouldn't have. It was obvious that she wanted to hear our conversation. Well then, cousin, Tafara said, picking up the scraps from the floor and loading them onto the empty tray. They're like a silly ninny. Don't be so harsh with Adna. All women do not have your courage. Well, they should. Enoch was silent. All right, I'm sorry, Enoch. It's just that all of her talk about being afraid made me angry. Do you know she stayed in the tent of the Medici all of Sunday? Well, there is simply not enough room for her. I had to move all of my things just so she could have a place to sleep. We had long finished our work and we didn't need her there. She should have rested in her own tent with her husband. Enoch sighed. Tafara, I do not blame her for being afraid. I am different now. Tafara bit her lower lip and focused on the straps of her sandals. You were saying that you did feel something last night. She leaned in close to Enoch, whispering, her eyes bright with excitement. Tell me. Onami leaned in too. I am glad the girl Tafara has come. Now we'll get to the bottom of this. Onami before. And after the fire came down, it faded. I felt quite myself again, except for this. Why, I didn't even notice it until I saw how everyone kept looking at me. Even Father Seth treats me as if I were Adam himself. Well, that is something. My father treats everyone like a childling. Yes. Oh, and there is a thing. Last night, after I came here, I heard his voice again. You did? Tafara exclaimed. What did he say? Well, I haven't even told Adna yet, but... Just then, Adna came bustling through the door with a large tray, mugs of steaming liquid, rolls, and an assortment of dried meats, jostled precariously as she made her way towards Enoch and Tafara. Enoch, dear one, what haven't you even told me yet? She asked, with a big smile plastered across her face. Tafara, you know you really should be going now. Great Mother Eve has been asking for you. She needs your help with the distribution. Tafara folded her arms tightly across her chest as she stood up slowly. Of course, Medici, Adna. Let me just get a cup of the ketu, said Tafara as she reached for the tray, and I'll be on my way. Tafara stopped and stared in surprise. The last mug was gone. I could have sworn there was another cup. Adna glanced down quickly. I thought I did bring enough for all of us. I guess I didn't. No matter then. Tafara, you can just get more on your way over. Certainly, Tafara said, pressing her lips together tightly. Enoch, bearer, we'll talk later. Onami grinned as he sipped the rich ketu. This is wonderful. It was good of the girl to be trained. Why, Father Seth lets her run as a wild gazelle, trying to get wisdom from my husband when she should be sitting at her father's feet or helping the other women. But no, not her. What does she do? She runs with the men, hunting and training with weapons. It's just not what a proper woman does. And she is presumptuous, calling you by your first name as if she were. Were what? Asked Enoch, frowning. Adna blushed and busied herself straightening the blankets. Well, just never mind. I just think you indulge her too much, Enoch. Enoch smiled. So now I am Enoch again. Now, Adna, don't let Tafara get to you. She is just strong-willed like Great Mother Eve. Be at ease, wife. I can't tell you about the voice I heard last night if you keep going on and on about Tafara. Oh, of course, husband, said Adna as she set the basket of blankets on the floor and sat down beside him. I must go to Avalon Forest. Adna frowned, but said nothing for a moment. Finally she spoke. I see. And when will you be leaving? Oh, right away. I see. Adna picked up the basket of blankets once again and turned to leave. I suppose you'll be needing some of your things prepared then. I'll see to it. Adna? Yes, she said sharply as she swung around to face him. Actually, I already packed my satchel last night. Oh, I see, said Adna, noticing for the first time Enoch's worn leather pack stuffed to the brim sitting by the door. But if you could, that is, if you don't mind, said Enoch as he studied her face, puzzled by the coolness he found there. Would you please ask Father Seth and the other elders to come to my tent? I would like to speak with them before leaving. Certainly, bearer. Father said as he raced towards the storehouse, his long silver hair pulled back and braided into a thick rope, slapped against his back like a whip as he rushed forward. He slowed his pace to a jog, then to a walk when he saw the guards he'd placed outside come into view. He had hardly slept at all last night. All he could think about was protecting those precious leaves and getting them to the people. At first light he rose and rushed right over to make sure everything was ready. Morning, Methuselah, said Father Seth as he brushed past Enoch's son, who stood rigidly by the door. All is well, Father, do not be. But Seth, already in the storehouse, quickly examining the piles of alru bundled in neat stacks, missed Methuselah's curious expression. Ah! Father Seth inhaled deeply as the aroma rushed through his body. Even the air of the alru does me good. He bent over one of the piles, took a leaf in his hand, and studied it carefully. He walked around the room and smiled. The newly constructed house, made of cypress, was airtight except for a small circular opening in the top of the cone-shaped roof. The timber had been cut and shaped into rectangular beams. Jared had been right. The smooth edges held firmly in place by thick twine, tree wax, and a special paste made by the Medici, was strong. Father Seth pushed against one of them, testing it. Good. The seams are nice and tight. Not even the bright rays of day's light seep through. Is that why the aroma of the alru is so strong in here? He shivered as a sharp tingle traveled up his spine to the top of his head, where it seemed to exit his body in a burst of sensation. He shook his head vigorously to rid himself of the feeling. Father Seth, a voice called from outside. Father Seth! It was louder this time. Is everything as you wish? The elders and the men are all here now, just as you requested. Yes, everything is fine. I'll be right out in just a moment. Father Seth reluctantly dropped the leaf he had been holding and stepped through the doorway, squinting as he left the dark room. He straightened himself slightly and nodded to the men who had come at his calling. Greetings, brothers. The bearer has sent word to me regarding the alru. No one said anything. Seth was a little surprised at their solemn air, but continued. Last night the Ancient of Days spoke to him in a vision, giving him wisdom. The Medici are already preparing to give the alru to those sick among us. A portion shall be given to each family, and then the rest stored for cultivating. Still, no one responded. Not even an aye or yes, let it be so. They just stared at him blankly. Yes, and also we have word that we are to be cautious of these sons of God who have come with Tubal-Cain. We are not to seek out their presence, nor should our women be left alone with them. Therefore I am asking the heads of each clan to select the best men to stand guard day and night. Father Seth stared deeply into the eyes of the elders as he spoke, looking for signs of dissension. Their faces revealed nothing, which was unlike them. His sons were past instructions, but for now they held their peace. Well, perhaps they are still in need of rest. Seth paused before telling them the rest of Enoch's orders. If any Elohim approaches our settings, alert the elders. But if any son of Cain approaches with an offering for the Ancient, they are to be accepted. They will be given their portion of the alru once the bearer has made the sacrifice for them. Father Seth waited for the outburst about accepting the offerings from the sons of Cain. The usual questions and suggestions. None came. Finally he spoke. I'm beginning to think the excitement of last eve has overwhelmed you. Even though strange and wondrous things have happened, we must still... Excuse me, Father? Yes, Methuselah, said Seth, relieved that someone broke the awkward silence. Please, speak. Well, Methuselah, you may speak plainly. We are all brothers here. What is your concern? Well, it's just you. It is your hair. What? Your hair, Father. It is different. What is the cause of it? What do you mean? Look, Father, said Methuselah as he approached him and pulled the cord away from the long braid. Look. Father gasped, then quickly regained his composure as he stared at the strands Methuselah held up to his face. Methuselah, bring me a vessel that reveals the essence. Methuselah quickly obeyed as the rest of the men waited expectantly. Father Seth examined himself carefully in the dish. His silver hair was no longer silver. Well, at least the middle of his forehead, and then trailing all the way down his back to his waist, was now black, jet black, so black it was almost blue. I have not seen the likes of this since I was a childling, Seth laughed. His laughter seemed to put the men at ease. Men, elders, children of the ancient, Seth said in between bursts of laughter. This is no strange omen. This is the gift of the ancient. Why, I was just in the storeroom examining the alru. I wanted to make sure everything was in order before you came. My appearance was as it has always been. You can ask Methuselah and the others standing guard. They saw the truth of what I'm telling you. Aye, 'tis truth, said Methuselah. Yes, he speaks what is right, said another of the guards. I saw him go into the room myself. His hair was as silver as the rocks on the bottom of the rushing river. Yes, said Seth, nodding his head vigorously as he chuckled. It seems as though the alru has another benefit. Not only does it heal, but it restores our youth. Father Seth, called another one of his sons, may we see? Oh, certainly, you may examine this wonder for yourselves. Come, do not be afraid. One by one, the men started to come examine Father Seth's hair. They held it up to the light. They rubbed it. No, the color did not come off. It was no trick. The excitement was contagious as they realized what this meant. Peals of laughter, giggles even, spread throughout the group of men. Some of them, the older ones, began to cry. Someone began singing. Soon they were else overtook them. Gone, at least for now, was the weight of the curse that had rested on their shoulders for so long, passed down from father to son, from mother to daughter, everyone affected, everyone knowing that one day they would all succumb, just as Adam had, to the curse. Now everything was different. After a while the singing slowed. In its place a hum from some other place deep within drifted gently in the air, filling the woods around them with sweetness until there was no sound at all except the flutter of a warm wind disturbing the trees. They remained that way, quietly listening to that breeze. Crack! A twig snapped in the distance. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Someone was coming. Father Seth stood up and looked down the path. The guards quickly followed his lead, moving into better positions to protect the storehouse. Some of the young men grabbed their weapons, ready to use them if necessary. Methuselah climbed the ladder to the wooden platform at the top of the storehouse. All is well, he called out from high above. It is the bearer. A few moments later, Enoch stepped into the clearing. Greetings, elders, brothers. May the ancient... He paused when he saw the storehouse. Everything as you wish? Asked Father Seth. Yes, it is. More than I expected. Praise the light. This is fine work, said Enoch as he examined the structure. The best yet, for truth. Father Seth beamed. Father Jared came up with the final design. The storehouse was crafted from a father tree, a conifer with long, drooping needles, standing about 50 lengths tall and 14 lengths in circumference. The hollowed-out trunk contained no other opening except for the arched door at the base of the tree and the entrance to the lookout platform at the top. Thick, long branches were further obscured by an massive vine, leaving the storehouse virtually hidden. They all stepped aside to allow Enoch to enter, and then followed him inside. Enoch quickly scanned over the stacks of alru as he walked over to the ladders built into the walls, allowing access to the upper levels. Thick ropes hung down from the top to large baskets on the bottom. to large baskets on the bottom. I see we have plenty of room for more once the... Enoch looked over his shoulder and stopped. The men, the elders he had listened to and reverenced his whole life, were all leaning against the walls or either lying on the floor, prostrate. What is the matter with lying on the floor, prostrate? What is the matter with... Enoch held out his arms again and looked around the room. The darkened room was completely illuminated as if the noonday sun sat in the middle. But no sun did this. It was him. Light gushed from his pores brilliantly, just as it had last. Dark cloak he had wrapped around his body diminished the light this time. Father Seth, Father Jared, men, please, brothers, get up. Let us speak outside in the open. Slowly the men rose up from the floor and moved away from the wall, stumbling towards the door. The men squinted as they held their hands over their eyes and it. I know that my appearance is unusual, but let me assure you that I am no God, no one to be worshipped. Get up, said Enoch as he reached for two of the guards at his feet and pulled them up. This great light is from the ancient, although I do not know what purpose it serves. So although I am the bearer, you must not bow to me again. The men looked at each other, unsure of how to respond to this new Enoch. Finally, Father Seth took a step forward toward Enoch. Men, be at ease. This light is surely a sign of the favor of the ancient. Remember Father Adam and Mother Eve too once shone with brilliance before the exile. After all, the Ancient One has chosen Enoch as the bearer of the seed. Why should he not possess the light that the seed will bring? The men relaxed a bit. A few dropped their hands from over their eyes and stared at Enoch curiously. And the brightness of the sun, the strange glow was not so strange. Why, once you get used to the bright light, he is just the same, said Methuselah as he moved closer to Enoch. Nothing else has changed. Enoch smiled at Father Seth, noticing for the first time the wide blue-black band of hair. I see the recipient of an altered appearance. No, the Ancient One has blessed us with the Auru that restores, said Father Seth as he rubbed the ebony streak on his head. The essence of it has done this wondrous thing. This happened to me after I went into the storehouse. Enoch looked at the storehouse thoughtfully. How long did you stay in the storehouse? Oh, walk around and examine the work. So you were the only one in there? And only around 30 minutes and the restoration occurred? Yes, that's the truth of it. I was only in there for a moment, and the great light that came upon me last sunsleep was renewed. It is glorious indeed, Bearer, said Father Jared. Just think of what this means for us. For the tribe of Seth, anyone who enters the storehouse of the Aru could be completely healed from the curse. Praise be to the ancient, shouted one of the older men. We can all enter and be restored. Aye, said another. I am ready now. How many of us can... Wait, said Enoch, raising his hands. We do not know the effects of staying in the room for longer than half a time. But it is obvious that it is good for us. Why, look at Father Seth. His youth is returning. 'Tis true. It must be the will of the ancient. Aye, it is a miracle, said the men, talking loudly and all at once. Listen, commanded Enoch, silencing their excited chatter. The Auru is powerful, and yes, it is a gift, but too much of even a good thing may not be good. I'm not willing to risk anyone's life until I am sure. Well, when will you, man of the Soka gruffly? I will only be sure if the Ancient of Days says we are to enter in. I have no such word yet. Yet, bearer? I mean no disrespect, but not all of us are as strong and well as you. Some of us have seen many ages and do not. No, bearer, he speaks the truth, he does, chimed in another of Adam's first offspring. Listen, hear me well, sons of Seth, said Enoch, interrupting the man as he moved in front of the door to the storeroom. That is why I called you together this day. The Ancient One spoke to me in a vision last eve. He told me to return to Avalon Forest for instruction. For truth, I am already packed and prepared to leave now. There I will inquire of the Hidden Father and ask about the Auru. I know many of you are already suffering from the sickness. Enoch walked towards the old man and put a hand on his shoulder. He shaded his eyes from the intense light, now surging from Enoch as brightly as before. For the sake of the Ancient One, please, please be patient. Surely the hidden Father will keep you well until I return. We cannot. No, we must not make the same mistake our father Adam made, taking that which has not taking that which has not been given, using what is the ancients for our own purposes. No, no, let us not forget the fruit of that other tree. We are still suffering from its nectar. Enoch looked at the somber expressions on the faces of the men, all of them his cousins, brothers, fathers, some, but all from the same man, Adam. Good, at least they still have the fear of the Ancient One, if not me. For truth, without the gift of the light, my own brothers might have turned on me by now. Enoch paced slowly across the entrance to the storehouse again and stood in front of the door. And the door must remain open while you are there. No one is to enter the Alru. You must be accompanied by at least one of the elders or guards. And any son of Cain who brings an offering for the Ancient One should be given a fair portion. But what if they are not? Began Methuselah. The Alru is to be given, began Methuselah. The Alru is to be given freely to any son of Adam who makes the sacrifice, said Enoch firmly. Now, if any concerns arise in my absence, Father Seth and the members of the tribunal will answer them. I have already spoken to the Medici. They have their instructions. Onami followed swiftly as he walked, who still stood staring dumbfounded. Onami understood their amazement. Enoch looks just like an Elohim. Well, almost, only smaller. Onami frowned and moved his hand to his bow. He furrowed his brow and glanced around. That's the problem. He looks like us. They will think he looks like us. They will think he is one of us. Enoch hummed as he moved quickly through the grasslands away from the settee of Seth, pausing for a moment to look over his shoulder. The outline of the trees on the outskirts of the settee was faint. Enoch looked up at the sun high in the air now and picked up his pace. He was almost running. Run, Enoch, run! Onami focused his thoughts toward the human. Onami grinned as he watched Enoch break out at full speed. That's better. I don't want you out in the open when night comes. Enoch wrinkled his nose as a southern breeze blew its fragrance forward. There is that stench again. Bloodlust. Enoch shook his head vigorously to rid himself of the acrid aroma. He held his breath. Then after a moment he breathed again. Ah, it's gone. Now all he could smell was the sweet fragrance of honeysuckle. Run, Enoch, run! Enoch ran faster,